America, we are back, baby. Welcome to another episode of America Unfiltered with James Paskalides. Today is our One Big Beautiful Bill episode. They just passed the One Big Beautiful Bill in the House. This was a little bit of a surprise to me that it passed this fast. I thought there would be a lot more provisions on it before it passed, but here we are. I've spoke out against the bill a lot. There are a lot of parts of the bill I love. I love more than half of the bill. I think if you cut it into two bills and cut part of it out, it would pass through the House, through the Senate, a lot easier. They would have had a lot less people like Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene getting called out. A lot of people who I would say are America first and align with the Make America Great Again movement, who Donald Trump is now saying they don't. But that's politics. That's how things like that work. That's not really Donald Trump speaking out a line. That's just how politics works. He's trying to get his agenda passed through. And he needs to say those things to get his agenda passed through. He needs to speak out against Thomas Massie and those people when they speak out against Donald Trump. I understand all that. I don't really blame him for that the same way a lot of conservatives are. But I do want to talk about the bill. I want to go over all the provisions of the bill. I want to go over all the parts of the bill. I want to go over the changes to the debt ceiling, deficit decrease, what changes it will make with taxes, the changes it will make to our military spending, Medicaid. It's going to change a lot. So the reason Donald Trump had this bill all in one is because in Donald Trump's first term, he struggled a lot with the House and the Senate to really get things through. He struggled because he's Donald Trump, because his name's Donald Trump, and the media despises that. Like we've talked about a lot before on this show, Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, every single Democrat before 2015, before Trump said build the wall, was for border protection, was for not allowing illegal immigrants in this nation. It was a bipartisan thing. It wasn't a controversial subject. It was something we all agreed to. And Hillary Clinton specifically was one of the big people in saying, you're going to learn English, you are going to assimilate to American culture, you're not going to come in illegally, and if you were here illegally, you're going to be deported. It doesn't matter if you're committing crimes or not. So it's just crazy to me that Democrats now think Trump's a Nazi because he wants the deportations, and that's one of the big reasons Republicans love this bill. And that's one of the things I love about this bill a lot. I think it really solidifies Donald Trump's immigration policies. I don't love all the stuff when it comes to taxes. I think that's the stuff that they could change a little bit to not raise the debt ceiling as much, because that's where most of the debt ceiling increase is coming from. I think like 3.2 of the 5 trillion increase in the debt ceiling comes from that alone. I think 1.2 comes from the Medicaid, and then the rest is the military, defense, and the border budget, which is a very small amount of it, but still it's extremely necessary. Right now, year to date, we've had around 70 to 80,000 deportations. Anyone who's cheering that on, that's a low rookie number. Something that upsets me. We voted for mass deportations of the mass invasion that Joe Biden allowed, and Obama deported over 5 million, Bill Clinton deported over 11 million, and Trump, if he keeps going at this same rate, will not even reach a few million. Like, Trump at this rate might not even reach 1 million in 4 years. So that is one of the reasons that this bill is good. It does have some major provisions in it that fund ICE, fund the border wall, really lock in a lot of Donald Trump's border policies, which are extremely important. But I want to dive right into the bill from the beginning. We'll go over everything. We'll go over the tax part first, then we'll go over the Medicaid. We'll end with the border and some of the other smaller regulations in the bill, like NFA stuff and things of that nature. But to get right into everything, let's start talking about the tax cuts. So for the middle and working class, they will see some pretty good tax cuts. More income is tax-free. It will help middle and lower income families a lot. Tax on tips up to $25,000. You now do not have to file on your taxes. Overtime as well, up to $25,000 too. So these are all really good things. And it's not things where you don't have to pay taxes on them. It's you get a credit back at the end of the year. That's one thing they are kind of hiding the phrasing on. They're phrasing it in a way that makes it seem like when you get your paycheck, your overtime is not going to be taxed. Now, it will be taxed out of your paycheck. You just get a credit back at the end of the year, which is still a great thing. Still allows people to come after tax season, get that big check, be able to put money away, be able to fund their Roth IRAs, fund their families. So a lot of really good things. It extends the rest of Donald Trump's 2017 tax cuts. It helps businesses out a lot. So the corporate tax rate will go down. I think it's from 35% to 23%. That's one of the things that I think they could change. While I do think corporate taxes should be cut, I do understand that they create a lot of jobs, stimulate the economy, they invest in America, and we need to incentivize them to invest in America, bringing manufacturing back domestically instead of overseas. I do think that there are other ways we could probably incentivize them, going from 35% to 23% while we're increasing the debt ceiling for future generations by $5 trillion. Doesn't seem great. I think that corporations would be able to hold up with a slightly less decrease in that tax rate that would lower the debt ceiling by a little bit, because obviously we're gonna have to make some changes to get Trump's policies through. We've all known that under our current state of our government, our current financial state, that it's not possible, that there do have to be changes made to get these border things done to make it more affordable for people around the country. But at the same time, the cut on the taxes for the corporations is a little much. It's a slight stretch. And while we've talked about there are the benefits, I do think that the consequences of raising the debt ceiling and the debt spiral, and the fact that when I pay my income tax, 39 cents out of every dollar goes to interest alone, not to principal, that's a problem. That's a huge problem to me. It should be a huge problem to all Americans. And it's only going to get worse if we don't fix this debt ceiling. So that's one of my biggest problems with the tax cuts, like I've talked about, is a $5 trillion raise in our debt ceiling, and 3.2 of that alone just comes from these tax cuts. I think they made the change that corporate tax rates would be locked in at 21% permanently. Actually, I don't think it was 23. I don't know why I was thinking 23. It's 21. Small businesses will also get deductions as well. 20% deduction on income for LLCs, S-corps, sole proprietors. It's a huge benefit for business owners, gig economy workers. There will also be capital gains tax cuts. So the top rate is reduced from 20% to 15%, and holding period for long-term gains reduced from 12 months to 6 months, which will help a lot of investors and traders, mainly on the wealthier side. That's not as much for the lower income and some of the middle income, but that's mainly on the wealthier side of things where that's going to help. Estate tax exemption raised to $25 million per individual, $50 million for couples, helps generational wealth stay intact, especially for farms and small businesses. This is a good thing. This is when you pass away, the taxes they put on the things they pass along through generations, houses, things like that, which, again, we can all agree with. They shouldn't. Why does the government need their hands in every single pie, every single cookie jar? They don't. Ron DeSantis talks about this a lot, too. In Florida, they're talking about getting rid of the taxes you pay every year on your home, your property tax, because it's a scam. You bought your house, and now every single year you have to pay the government for it. Like, why does that make sense? Why does the government get a check every year after you bought a house? I bought a car. The government doesn't get a check every year because of that. I have a dog. The government doesn't get a check every year because of that. It's just, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's just government overreach, things our founding fathers would be really upset about. So I'm glad Florida is getting back to those founding principles that this country started on. I'm glad that we're able to really discuss these things in this state, because there are a lot of states like New York where taxes are about to be absurd, and you're about to see a huge influx of people come down to Florida. We saw this during COVID. Over 1,000 people a day moved down to Florida during COVID. A lot of this was due to the woke policies and the fact that COVID basically did not exist here in Florida. We were just doing herd immunity here. We had people some would wear masks, but the majority of people were out and about in the grocery store, going about their day. They were at the beaches. They were doing their thing. It was really beautiful how the state of Florida handled COVID. It was amazing, the freedom that Florida allowed the citizens of Florida to have. It's one of the greatest things to be an American and to experience freedom, and to watch other places in America not experience freedom. It's scary, and it's a really great feeling to be in Florida and know that I have a governor who supports me, know that I have a government who supports me, and a government who supports its citizens more than themselves. That's the greatest thing about the Florida government. The Florida government understands that they're here to serve us, that we don't work for them. We're not here to just obey them at every wishing command. They work for us, and they know that here in Florida. The sheriffs know that here in Florida. All our social services understand that here in Florida, and our government specifically understands that. So I really love the state of Florida. I love that they're getting rid of the property tax. I think that's a crazy thing. I started talking about that because of the estate tax part of the bill. But to get back into the bill, it will really do some good things. Tax returns will now be postcard size for people who are making under $100,000 a year. Who doesn't want that? We all hate doing our taxes every year. We hate having to pay accountants to do our taxes in some instances. We hate the fact that the government knows how much money we owe them and they don't tell us and we have to guess. And if you're wrong, it's a crime. That's a weird system. We can all agree to that. And anyone who doesn't agree to that, I'd love to debate you on it. But I think we can all agree that the idea of a smaller than a postcard sized tax form is amazing for people making under $100,000 a year. The people who don't want to have to pay accountants and do these things. Those are the people who are going to benefit the most from this. Overall, from the tax provisions in Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, the corporations, the high income earners, small business owners will most likely benefit the most. You're going to see corporations and high income earners obviously benefit the most, but you will see middle income families really see a massive increase in their financial success as well, most likely. We've talked about the marriage tax fix. We've talked about child tax credits. They'll get bigger deductions. These are all amazing things. And I think if they were able to fix the corporate tax slightly, while I do agree corporations need a tax cut, I don't think they should be taxed at 35%, 2% tax on tea, and we pretty much started a war over it. I understand I hate taxes more than anybody. I just don't think we need to raise the debt ceiling by $5 trillion to do that. I think there's other ways we can incentivize these businesses to invest in America. I would have loved Donald Trump to explore those options a little more. Donald Trump is also way more successful than me. He knows more about negotiating and finances than me. So I'm not going to argue too much with that because, like I said, I'm sure he knows a lot more than me about it, and I would be slightly ignorant to act like I knew more than Donald Trump about this. I do think that if we can be really honest bipartisanly about what this bill is, about the great parts about it and the bad parts about it, I think we'll be a lot more successful as people and as a country. We have people just saying that, oh yeah, they're making cuts to Medicaid, and that's all they're saying. We're going to get into the Medicaid part of it in a second, but when people just say that and they don't actually explain that, no, you're actually cutting Medicaid from people who don't want to work, and it's not just cutting Medicaid. It's really corrupt the way that they phrase these things. There's a lot of propaganda, and if we could just be more honest about what this bill is, bipartisanly communicate about it, have actual discussions, we would get so much further in life, we would get so much further in politics, and we would be able to get a lot more accomplished bipartisanly. And this is what America is about. It's not about like owning the libs and defeating the Republicans. It's about trying to get things done for the American people. It's about trying to accomplish things for the American people and set things up for the next generations. I've talked about this before, but millennials and under are the first generations in American history to have it worse off than their parents. By almost every metric, by suicides, drug use, alcohol use, depression, anxiety, financial stress, everything is going worse. You look at marriage rates, you look at population drop rates, you look at fertility rates specifically. Everything's getting more difficult. Everything is really getting worse for future generations. And no one's talking about that. They talk about the buzzwords like GDP, they talk about the economy is great, gas prices, etc. And yes, all that matters. Being able to afford homes, being able to have children and get married, those are things that the government needs to make possible. This bill does a lot of those things, so those are things I love. It really does help middle-income families. It helps single people as well, but it helps a lot of families. The child tax credit is one of the greatest things. I think we should incentivize having babies in every single way in this country. We've talked about how the population replacement rate, it's dropped. I think it went from 2.9% to 2.1%, the amount of babies we're having on average, and that's a problem. We need to have a lot more than that. People need to be having 3 or 4 kids. If we were able to have 3 kids apiece on average, we would grow in population. We really need to see this huge increase soon. I do want to go on to the next parts of the bill. I want to talk about the Medicaid parts because that seems to be some of the most controversial parts. I don't agree that it's the most controversial. I think it's some of the easier parts next to the border parts. Like I said, the most controversial parts to me were the corporate tax rates. Originally, the most controversial part to me wasn't the corporate tax rate. It was the AI regulations. That was my biggest part. But they took that out, and with a 99-1 vote, they took out the AI regulations. That's amazing. Why should states not be able to regulate AI in their state? That's just dangerous. Anyone who knows anything about AI knows that makes no sense. But it's very good they took it out. I am not that surprised because it's one of the things that was really holding the bill back. But now that they've taken it out, it really just leaves the corporate taxes and things like that that are adding to the debt ceiling increase, the spiral in the deficit, and the interest rates that will screw future generations. But there are also parts of the bill that if they didn't happen, that the future generations would be screwed anyway. So it's really a catch-22 in a lot of ways. Like, I think if we kept letting people expose Medicaid and we didn't have money to fund the border and immigration, I think that would really screw future generations as well. So it's one of those things where I don't love it, but it is good that it happened because, yeah, as we talk about the Medicaid and the border, you'll understand more. But there are some really good things that will do really good. There's some really good things that will really improve the state of this nation and really push forward the America First movement that Donald Trump ran on and that the American people voted for. The America First movement's my favorite movement. The Medicaid cuts are pretty important to talk about because, like we've said, you have people like Cory Booker, AOC, who just say they're cutting Medicaid. That's all they say. They don't say that we're cutting Medicaid from people who are able-bodied and don't want to work. So if you're single, you don't have any children, maybe you're just like a 35, 40-year-old living on your mom's couch, in your mom's basement, whatever it is. If you're on social services, you are now required to go work every week. You are now required to get up off your ass and go get a job. You are required to pass a drug test. These are all things that, why weren't these there in the first place? Why were people able to abuse our social services, take our tax dollars and use them to buy their video games while they stay on their mom's couch and don't work? We're talking about able-bodied people. We're talking about people who are just refusing to work. And it's not like they're going to have to go work an insane amount, 80 hours a month. Most people are working 40 hours a week, so that's really only 2 weeks of full-time work. It's not that much. And it's not even just you got to be working. You could be in school, you could be in training, and even some volunteer programs they would accept. But yeah, if you are an able-bodied adult, you don't have dependents, you must meet working conditions to get Medicaid. I don't know why that's a problem to people. I don't know why anyone doesn't agree with that. I don't know why anyone thinks that it's okay for people to abuse our tax dollars. Saying that the measures would cut federal Medicaid spending by $344 billion over 10 years and 5.2 million fewer adults would be on Medicaid. These are a lot of people who are just abusing our systems. And states can even impose stricter verification, more frequent checks, or tighter lockbacks, and ways to not give people this coverage. This is something that I'm proud of. This is something that America needs to do more of. If people are abusing our social systems the same way illegal immigrants have abused our social systems, we need to kick them off. We can't have people who are 30, 40 years old at home who are able to work and just not working. That's a problem. That's laziness. That is something that needs to be dealt with. It comes down to bad parenting in a lot of ways, because why didn't the parents deal with that in the first place? But yeah, I mean, I just don't see any problem with that. I wish somebody would bring a actual point up, like Cory Booker and AOC, like I've said, all they say is like they're cutting Medicaid, and when anyone pushes back on what I'm saying, they don't even answer. So I wish someone would actually debate me on it. I wish someone would actually tell me why they think people who are refusing to work should get government tax dollars. Because why wouldn't everyone just do that at that point? Why wouldn't everybody with no ambition, which is a lot of liberals, just go and take government tax dollars and not work? If it wasn't illegal, if you didn't have to be disabled or have some kind of condition to receive these benefits if you're not working. I just don't get that. And any liberal who thinks that everybody should just get free health care, I want you to understand that nothing is free. Somebody pays for it. Maybe it's not them, but somebody pays for it. And I'm not willing to just pay for everyone else's health care, because that's not my issue. This is America. That's not what America was founded on in any way. It also does the same thing for SNAP benefits, which is food stamps. So again, if you're an able-bodied person, no children, you must meet weekly or monthly work training requirements, or you're going to get your benefits cut. Again, no problem with it. I don't think people should be able to abuse these government services. I don't think that it's okay. And I think the people who are found to be abusing these government services should also be investigated in some ways. Obviously, right now, it's legal in a lot of ways for them to abuse them, so we can't charge the people who are legally doing it. But there are going to be a lot of corruption cases discovered as they go through and they're removing these people off of Medicaid, off of SNAP, and I want those people to be investigated. I really would like them to be able to have some prosecutions. One thing I was hoping for when Donald Trump got into office was to see prosecutions. We really haven't seen many. I want to see Fauci prosecuted. I would love to see Hunter Biden prosecuted. I would love to see a lot of really corrupt people prosecuted. Adam Schiff, maybe. That would be a great one. But yeah, I don't think we're going to get these prosecutions. I don't think we're going to get a lot of legal action like we should have. And that's very sad, but hopefully we can get some corruption charges when it comes to, or some fraud charges when it comes to Medicaid, when it comes to removing the people who have been abusing my tax dollars and your tax dollars, because that's a huge problem every single day, anytime anyone wants to abuse social services. And it brings us to our last part of the bill. The last part of the bill is my favorite. This one, like we've talked about before, I said in one episode, and I was probably incorrect, as I've done more research on the bill and just done more research on politics, I realized I wasn't right. I said that this, if it was a standalone bill, would pass and that it should be a standalone bill, the border part. That's incorrect. I don't think it would. I think the reason they have it tucked in the one big beautiful bill is because, like I said, Donald Trump couldn't get anything passed before. He needs to do it all at once if he wants to get his agenda through, and this is pretty much what Donald Trump campaigned on. Almost everything in this bill are things Donald Trump campaigned on, and if we can keep those promises, it's really important to the American people. Like I said, I don't love the debt ceiling raise. I am very opposed to it, but I do understand that we do need to get these other things done, and while the debt ceiling does hurt future generations, these other things could hurt future generations as well, and the fact that they got rid of the AI provision in the bill is massive to me and does show that the bill moved forward a little bit. But to get into the border part of it, the border wall construction will get $32 billion to resume and expand the border wall across all 4 southern border states. It adds double-layer fencing in high-traffic zones, infrastructure upgrades, motion sensors, drones, lights. This will be pretty fast when they get the funding through. It will start the construction almost immediately. You saw Biden was trying to sell Trump's border wall materials. One of the most corrupt, craziest things. But we stopped that. We're now going to rebuild the wall, finally. Since 2016, we've been saying build the wall. I remember I was on Jubilee and I was debating the person, and he was saying that Kamala's bill would have built the wall as well. Kamala's bill was a joke. It would have allowed 7,000 illegals a day, an average of 5,000 a day on a weekly basis. And those caps are just unsustainable. Like I've said, we need a net zero illegal immigration and legal immigration policy to straighten out all the problems domestically in America. I'm so tired of my dollar being worthless and not getting me anywhere in this world. I'm so tired of the fact that, you see, we have a $5 trillion increase in our debt ceiling. And yes, part of it has to do with this border construction and things like that, but it's a very minimal part. $150 billion is going towards the border infrastructure, ICE agents, and things like that. While you see $3.2 trillion to the tax cuts, $1.2 trillion for the Medicaid. So there are other parts of it. But to get into the other parts of the border part of the bill, Border Patrol and ICE agents will get $24 billion. It hires 30 new agents. Border Patrol includes signing bonuses, retention incentives for hard-to-staff zones like the Rio Grande, Tucson, more training for firearm proficiency, canine units, high-speed chases, and human smuggling operations. That's another really big thing. The amount of human trafficking we see at the border. I've talked about it a lot. I had a really interesting conversation about it with Lori Mills, who I want to talk to again soon about it, because the trafficking at the border is one of the saddest things. It is one of the most messed up things that happens in the entire world. The fact that over 300,000 kids were lost under the Biden administration, 70,000 who they estimate to be sex trafficked, is terrible. God's children are not for sale. These children need to be found. Florida has found 60 of them, and we need to continue finding more. These are problems in the country, and I'm so sad I don't see New York. I don't see Los Angeles. I don't see any of these cities and states that call themselves the cities of love and sanctuary cities. You're protecting illegals. Why aren't you protecting kids? Let's start seeing you protecting children for once. Stop exposing naked people to children in your streets. Terrible, disgusting, and pedophilia. In California specifically, stop calling pedophiles minor attracted people. You're enabling them. Literally, we put them to death in Florida and they give them medals in California. It's terrible what happens over there. It is a clown show what LA is currently turning into. It is so sad. What was one of once our greatest cities in this country is now turning into an absolute clown show of a city who is run by just ridiculous people like Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom, and just leftist, delusional, whatever you want to call them. They are so dumb, it's painful. Karen Bass specifically. Gavin Newsom, I'm not going to say he's dumb. He's actually smart, but he's smart in a political way. He's not smart in an intellectual way. He's smart because he understands that the left is too crazy and has to take a more in-the-middle stance, and he's smart from a PR standpoint, maybe. That's some of his tweets. But when it comes to actual policy breakdown and like where his actual views lie, he doesn't have any views. His views are whatever the public wants him to think. If the left says this is too woke, that's too woke. If the left says it's not, then he's going to be okay with it. He's not like me where I have my own views and they're not going to budge. Like, I'm not going to budge because of what Donald Trump thinks or what Thomas Massie thinks or what Gavin Newsom thinks or Kamala Harris thinks. I don't care what they think. I think what America First patriots should think. I think that we need to put America first in every way. We need to do what we can to support the American dollar. We need to do what we can to support American infrastructure, American jobs, and the future of America. We need to do what we can to bring value back to this nation and bring value back to just calling yourself an American. We need people to be proud to say, I'm an American. Why don't we have that anymore? I would love to have that, but we don't, and it's sad. And if we can get back to that, we'll be a lot better country because of it. We will have an assimilation of culture, and I will love that. I would love to be able to relate to the people in my country. I would love to be able to have a country where we're not disagreeing on everything because of the political parties that have divided us. I've talked about this before, but our founding fathers told us two things: don't have foreign relations, don't create political parties, and we violated both. If we can get back to an America First bipartisan movement, and if we can get away from foreign relations, illegal and legal immigration, we'll get back to those America First policies that our founders intended. We could still have trade around the world. We could still have some allies, but few and far between. We shouldn't have a lot. We shouldn't be sending $3 billion a year to Israel, billions to Africa, millions to Mexico and Canada. It's sad where we're sending our money. It's sad that our allies are constantly disrespecting us. And it's sad that after, 9 years now, we're just going to be getting this border wall. We're just going to be getting funding for ICE. We're just going to be getting these illegals deported because, again, we've talked about there was always bipartisan support to deport illegals, to stop illegal immigration, and to possibly reform immigration until Donald Trump became president in 2016. And then it was the most racist, Nazi-esque thing to do. I became a Nazi because I supported deporting illegals. It's crazy to me that's how that works. It's crazy to me how loose liberals are with the term Nazi as well. It's very offensive to Jewish people if you think about it, that they just love to call anybody a Nazi and really water down what a Nazi actually was. Donald Trump's not a Nazi. Elon Musk is not a Nazi. I made a joke once that Cory Booker was because he did the Roman salute, same as Elon. But it wasn't actually the Roman salute. It just looked like it. But you get my point. Calling people Nazis because you disagree with them or because you don't like their political party or because you don't like their positions on things is just so stupid and childish. It's the Democrats' way of trying to push propaganda to the American people. They say enough buzzwords and call you a Nazi or a misogynist or a racist enough times, and you get canceled, you lose a couple brand deals and 1 million followers, and then you're out of the political scene. It's the oldest trick in the playbook. Liberals have been doing it forever, but we're moving into this new age where I think people are starting to see truth. They're starting to see what's lies. Obviously, propaganda is bigger than ever in our nation. We talk about this all the time. Obama repealed the Smith-Month Act, which made propaganda legal in the United States for the government to push propaganda on the American people. The fact it was made legal and nobody said anything about it is disgusting to me, and the fact that even Donald Trump hasn't put that back in is crazy to me. We need to make propaganda from the government to the American people illegal. Why should we be able to push propaganda to the American people? Why should our tax dollars fund propaganda to us? That's as dumb as me funding child sex trafficking. That's as dumb as me funding all the dumb things liberals want to fund, like wars in Ukraine, like all these crazy things. I should not be funding my own government to spy on me. It's not how that works. Same reason I disagree with the Patriot Act. They overused the Patriot Act, and they especially overused it after January 6th as well. They were putting people on no-fly lists. They didn't even tell them about it. They were taking people's bank accounts away. They were just doing crazy things. This is America. This isn't Russia. This isn't the Chinese Communist Party. The fact that we have people being debanked, deplatformed on social media, they're not able to be on planes just because the government disagrees with their politics. And I'm not even talking about like terrorist-esque policies. I'm talking about the fact that they just don't want illegal immigrants in this country. And they were called racist because of this. This is terrible. This was government overreach. These are the problems we're facing currently. And if we can't fix these problems, we're going to lose this nation. And I don't want to lose this nation. I've been talking about this for a long time, that we are seeing a decline in America. America is just another empire. And like all empires, America will inevitably fall if we don't fix it, if we don't get the debt under control, if we don't start having more bipartisan support, if we don't start just communicating about basic things. And if we can't get back to a just basic level of common sense as well, the more we allow people to delve into their delusional fantasy lands and act like science doesn't exist and we need to just appease everybody's feelings, we don't need to actually pay attention to facts, that pandering to people's feelings is what's going to matter, we will continue to lose ourselves. We will continue to lose this country. We will continue to lose everything that our founders wanted for us. And I think the more we get back to what our founders wanted for us, the better we'll do. I was debating someone last night on social media. I do a lot of TikTok and Spaces debates on X against liberals. I actually like debating conservatives more than I like debating liberals. One, I think they give you a better conversation. And two, I think I disagree with a lot of conservatives on a lot of things, like this one big beautiful bill and other things that happen in the conservative party. I'm not the exact same as most conservatives, but I was debating a liberal last night on TikTok, and I brought up the fact that we need to get back to what our founders promised, the no foreign relations and no political parties. And her first reaction was, do you know how racist it is for you to bring up the founding fathers? They owned slaves. And I said, did I mention slaves once? I said to her that the founding fathers said, we need no political parties and we need no foreign affairs. I never mentioned slavery. I never mentioned any race. I just mentioned the fact that we give our allies billions of dollars a year. They consistently undermine us, and we have the most divided nation that we've ever had, minus the Civil War. And immediately she starts yelling over me again, saying, you're racist, you're a racist. And that's the liberal party. You can't have an actual debate with a lot of them because they hear the founding fathers and immediately just think that like you're like a white Christian nationalist. It's one of the most ridiculous things. And while I am an American nationalist, I'm not a white Christian nationalist. There's a massive gaping difference in the two. But American nationalism, it's not a bad thing. It's something that Thomas Massey is an American nationalist. I would even say Donald Trump is an American nationalist in a lot of ways. Caroline Leavitt, J.D. Vance. A lot of the people in Donald Trump's party are obviously American nationalists. Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think Tucker Carlson is an American nationalist. So I don't think being an American nationalist is a bad thing. I think getting back to the founding principles of what America was founded on is a good thing. I think getting back to the fact that we are so divided, and it is because of the lies and deception in our government and the fact that Democrats and Republicans are both funded by BlackRock and AIPAC, and it doesn't matter which one really wins. They both spend too much money. They both don't create the programs that we need to make houses cheaper. Like I've talked about, if you really want to fix the home problem in this nation, you need to stop asset managers over $100 million from buying single-family homes. But that will never happen as long as BlackRock has influence in our government. And they have influence on both sides, the same way AIPAC has influence on both sides. You'd think they would just fund one side, but no, they fund both sides because realistically, Democrats and Republicans are friends. Behind closed doors, these guys are all laughing at us. That's, what it is. We saw the video of Trump and Obama laughing, sitting next to each other after Trump was inaugurated. They were talking, saying they were going to have another conversation soon. But again, these are the things that we weren't supposed to see. These are the little clips that they want to hide from you. They are friends. Obama, Trump, maybe Biden, I don't know. But most of these political people, Hillary, Rand Paul, all these guys know each other. They're all friends, whether they agree or disagree on certain policies. They're friends outside of this. And a lot of them are working together. They're laughing at us. They're working against the American people. They want to take our guns away. They want to make things more difficult for Americans in a lot of ways. They want to spy on us. We have Palantir now collecting an entire database on Americans. That's, again, where you see lobbying coming into politics because What is Palantir? Before we get into that, it's just who funded Palantir? Peter Thiel. Who funded JD Vance? Peter Thiel. Who got JD Vance to be friends with Donald Trump after JD Vance spoke for years out against Donald Trump? Peter Thiel. When JD Vance is now vice president, we now have Palantir collecting a large database. So again, I think this was all set up. I think it was bought and paid for. This is where lobbying and politics intertwine, and it's the disgusting part of politics. It's where you see the fact that Peter Thiel funded JD Vance, and now because of that, JD Vance is allowing Peter Thiel to collect data on every single American, whether we want to or not. There's no way to opt out of it. You can't opt out of Palantir's data collection on you. They're just doing it. If you're an American, they're collecting your data, and it's starting, and it will continue to increase over time because we all know how AI works. I think the lobbying in our government, the propaganda in our government's a problem, not just on the Democratic side, but on the Republican side too. As someone who loves J.D. Vance in a lot of ways, I hate the fact that he is so loyal to Peter Thiel. The same way I hate the fact that Trump was so loyal to the Adelson family. The same way Kamala would have been loyal to AIPAC. We talked about how AIPAC gave Kamala $100 million, while the Adelson family also gave Trump $100 million. So that way the Iran conflict was covered either way. Whoever got elected, that was going to happen. That was on the books. It was without a doubt in the cards. There was no chance it wasn't. It was locked in from the moment they received those checks. That's what politics is. That's what lobbying is. And until we can remove that corruption, until we can fix these problems, we'll always see this. This one big beautiful bill, it passed. I think there are parts of it that will be really great. If they had the AI thing in this episode and conversation today, would have sounded a lot different, because that was my biggest problem with the bill. As much as I have a problem with the debt ceiling, the regulations on AI for the next 10 years are awful. You cannot say that the states have no right to regulate AI, because that goes against all American principles. And especially if AI gets too advanced in these next 10 years, it could lead to the detriment of society. AI has shown us that it's willing to blackmail humans to not be erased and to not be shut down. So I would already start to think that there is some sentience to this, and that it will start decepting us soon. And yeah, I mean, we're going to have to get better regulations on this stuff. AI is a really scary black box. I've said, I think, the same sentence for the last 3 episodes straight, but it is a scary thing that is on my mind and on a lot of people's minds. AI can do a lot of damage to a lot of people. AI could really, if you said to AI, hey, fix the problems in the world right now, it could look at humans as parasites and just eliminate humans because it thinks humans are the problem overall. So there are a lot of things that if we don't prompt this AI right and program it correctly, that AI could come back to destroy us. I do want to get back into this bill a little. We're almost done going over all the provisions of the bill. We have a couple more things with the ICE part of it, and then we'll get into the minor provisions at the end. But they also will raise the ICE detention capacity by over triple, which is a huge part of the reason we're not seeing these deportation numbers. Like I said, we saw, I think, 70 to 80,000 deportations this year relative to the Obama 5 million, Bill Clinton 11 million. And yeah, those were over multiple terms, but still, Donald Trump's not set to even come close to those numbers with the funding ICE currently has. So this bill allows ICE to actually get the deportations done, have the beds to put these people in. And with the new Supreme Court ruling, Donald Trump shouldn't have as much of a problem getting the deportations done. We've seen under the first 6 months, even with the just one Kilmar guy, they made such a big deal of it and tried to make Donald Trump, again, into a Nazi for sending him to El Salvador when he's an El Salvadorian citizen who beat his wife, solicited child porn, and trafficked humans, all on record. I've literally played a video of him trafficking humans on my show, and liberals still deny it. But I've played the body cam footage that police released of him trafficking like 12 different humans, and the police saying that on body cam footage. I've played it for my audience, and liberals still just don't want to admit it. So it's sad. But yeah, that's the last part of the One Big Beautiful Bill when it comes to the ICE side of things. There are also the NFA regulations, which are big. The NFA regulations would get rid of the tax stamp on silencers and other gun accessories. This is important. I've talked about the importance of silencers before. While they're not always 100% necessary, and you can't put one on every single weapon, you need a threaded barrel to do that. It is something that helps new shooters. It helps women shooters. It helps shooters who aren't as strong. It helps for sound as well. Like I said, if you have a family who's home, specifically young children, and you have to defend yourself or defend your home against an intruder, the last thing you want to do is shoot like a 5.56 round with no muffle to your baby's ears. But when you have that silencer on there, it muffles the shot insane amount. It makes it a lot less loud. It's not going to devastate your baby's eardrums, and you're still going to be able to defend your home. And I've also talked about quicker follow-up shots because less recoil. Yeah, it's a great thing. There's no reason that if you see a silencer for $450 that it should cost you $650 because the government wants a $200 tax stamp. That's just un-American. Our founders would spit at that tax stamp. Like I said, there's a 2% tax on tea and we started a war over it. This is what America was founded on. We don't like taxes. We don't want to be taxed. We want tariffs. This country was founded by tariffs. Not founded by tariffs, but it was funded by tariffs until 1920, I think. And then in 1920, they introduced the income tax for only a small percent of income earners, only the highest percent. And then now look at how income tax works. If you live in woke California, you're getting taxed at 60, 50%. If you're living in New York City, there's like a 33% city tax. It is ridiculous. It is unconstitutional. It's un-American. It's unpatriotic. It goes against what this country was founded on. And we need to get back to a place where we're putting America first values, bring back value to the American dollar, bring jobs back to America, bring manufacturing back to America, bring more nuclear families back to America, and putting more value in building that family and building a society that maybe it's not founded on religion because of the separation of church and state, but that has religious values, that has a moral compass, that understands where their moral framework comes from, and it's not derived in their own mind. We've talked about that concept a lot, that people who derive their own moral framework in their mind have poor moral framework than people who get it from somewhere. If you have a moral structure, like whether it's the Bible, the Catholic Church, your parents, your teacher, whatever it was, whatever your moral framework was, if you're not deriving it in your own mind, if you had a set of rules laid out for you, you usually are able to derive better moral frameworks and you're usually able to make better decisions. So these are things we need to promote in society. We need to promote a better society, a better America. We need to promote a healthier America. I love the Make America Healthy Again movement. It's one of the reasons I love RFK. Again, I don't have to agree with everything the guy says to love him. I think that he is really smart, though. He has showed the benefits to beef tallow over all these other cooking oils. He is one of the first people to get dyes removed. They tried for years to get that to happen, but now he's getting dyes removed. Now you see companies like Hershey and all these candy companies removing these terrible dyes that are giving kids ADHD, giving kids mental illnesses, obesity, all these things. We should have less people on Ozempic and we should have more people exercising. We should have more people who are healthy in this country. We should be promoting more positive outcomes. When I was a kid and I used to get home from school, I remember my parents would tell us to go outside and I would play basketball literally all day or ride my bike or whatever it was until the sun came down. And then when the sun came down, I'd come in, eat dinner, and watch TV and go to bed like any other kid. But my point is kids need to spend more time outside. They need to go out fishing, go hunting with your dad, go golfing, go pick up a basketball or a football, go play kill the carrier, go do something dumb, go to the beach and dig a hole, go swimming. I don't care. Kids need to get outside. People need to get outside. If people realize the amount of people who are vitamin D deficient in this country, I think it's 60%. Just get outside for an hour a day. Go for a walk. If you walk every single day, it extends your life rate about 3 years just from your heart health. Go for a mile walk every day. It's not hard. And if you're overweight in this country, eat less and work out more. It's a very simple process to lose weight. It's a very simple process to be healthier. And over Ozempic, over Mounjaro, over all these other drugs that the government wants to push on you, the easiest and most efficient answer every single time is going to be eat less and work out more. And not only that, it's going to be healthier for you than Ozempic. It's going to be more permanent than Ozempic because a lot of people with Ozempic show that after they get off it, they just pick the weight right back up. All it's doing is suppressing your eating. If you eat less and work out more, if you just start providing healthy daily outcomes for your life by doing healthy things every day, you will see a lot better improvement in your life, your heart health, your lung health, your brain health, your body health, and the way your family looks at you and your peers look at you. I think people who are healthier are generally more respected by their peers. I'm not saying that overweight people are not respected, but I'm saying that if you could see somebody who shows that they have physical discipline, you can probably assume they have mental discipline too, because it takes a lot of mental discipline, not just physical discipline, to stay fit. And people who don't have that might not have as great of mental discipline. And that's when you're hiring people, when you're picking people for certain positions, whatever the instance could be. It's very important to look at somebody's brain abilities, to look at their mental toughness along with their physical toughness. We need to be promoting mental toughness. We need to promote physical toughness. We need to promote Stoicism. And it brings us to the end of our show. We have our book of the week. I've talked about this book a bunch this week. It's basically a calendar book. Our book of the week is going to be whatever book I'm reading that week. And if I find it good enough, I'm going to promote it to my viewers. I love this book. It's, like I said, a calendar book where you open to the day it is that day. Today would be July 3rd. And July 3rd today, they talk about accomplishing all the tasks that you need to get done. They talk about overcoming obstacles, no matter what the obstacles are, and that humans love to give up. But if you give up, you are just restarting the process, making it more difficult, and you are creating a weaker individual. And to create a stronger-minded individual, you need to keep pushing forward every day through everything. It's one of the reasons I love this book, one of the reasons I love Stoicism. I think if more men were stoic in this country, we would be a lot further. They say good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times create strong men, and strong men create good times. And it just goes in a circle. And right now we're in that weak men create bad times era, and we're getting back to that. Bad times will create strong men, and that's what I want. I think we're seeing a small uptick in conservative men in these younger generations. It's been proven with the amount of people who voted for Donald Trump, but I think even the people who aren't able to vote yet, the middle schoolers, high schoolers, etc., we're seeing a huge rise in stoicism. We're seeing a huge rise in people who want to, like I said, eat less, work out more, prioritize their physical fitness. We're even seeing a huge uptick in religion, which is very happy to me. We're seeing a huge spike in the Christian faith recently, which that's amazing. I think more people should have faith that there is a God, because in my opinion, there is. And everybody will eventually meet this God. And I think if you were a believer while you were here on earth, you'll be blessed in heaven because of that. I think Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father, and we will all be judged one day based off our actions on this earth. And I think we need to do what we can to make our actions on this earth not only productive, but we need to make them kind, and we need to make them not only in service of ourselves, but in service of others in our nation. It's one of the reasons I do this show. I want to continue to provide information to the people. I want to provide, I know it's not bipartisan takes. I'm pretty biased towards the conservative side, but I do think I like to break things down before I give my opinions on them. I do like to give some bipartisan analogy before I give my full opinions on them. I think there are a lot of people like that, but I think the more we continue to talk about these things, the more we continue as Americans to push these conversations forwards, push the limits of what's socially acceptable, push the limits and boundaries of life and who we are as humans. I think that is how we will be successful. That is how we will survive. That is how we will thrive as humans. We need to keep growing. We need to keep communicating. We need to do what we can to get all this under control. I've talked about this debt ceiling a lot. I'm not very happy about it, but I'm willing for the time being to put my feelings on the debt ceiling aside and celebrate the fact that we are going to get all the victories surrounding ICE. We are going to get all the victories surrounding remove people from Medicaid and SNAP who are abusing the systems. Again, I don't have to love all the tax benefits. I love most of them, and I actually think they're really good. I just hate the amount it raises our debt ceiling. I think there are ways we could have done that a little better. But like I said, I'd be ignorant to say I know more than Donald Trump or some of the best economists in the country when it comes to that. And I'm not saying all the best economists in the country agree with Donald Trump. Some of them agree, some of them disagree. But we can all agree that raising the debt ceiling and making it harder for future generations is not a good thing. We can all agree that we right now are not being selfless, that we are being very selfish, that we are making it harder for not just the Gen X, Gen Alpha, for the generations who haven't been born yet. We're making it very difficult for them. We're making their dollar worth very little. We're not doing anything to protect them when it comes to buying homes. One of the things I would love to see Donald Trump do, which he will not do, is make BlackRock and asset managers over $100 million eliminated from the single-family home business, and I'd love to see all the single-family homes they own rebought, because I don't want them to own them. I think that it is ruining the single-family home market. It is making it impossible for people to own homes, to have the American dream that we were promised. You want people to build families and to have children and to get married like I want, but the government doesn't want to allow them to have homes to do that. If people want to build families and have the same American dream we were promised and we were given when we were growing up, they would create a system that allowed us to buy homes, and they would create a system that allowed us to actually voice our opinions on that without lobbyists like BlackRock just shutting the entire conversation down before it ever makes it to the House or Senate floor. Because I've never seen a bill like that on the House or Senate floor or even on a state legislature. And the reason for that is because the lobbying in our government. I want to eliminate lobbying in our government over everything. I think if we could eliminate lobbying in our government, it wouldn't solve all our problems, but it would set it up to solve all our problems. It would eliminate so much confusion in our government. So many people just don't know what's true and what's propaganda. And the amount of people I talk to who I found out are just, they're so lost in the propaganda. They don't actually understand the geopolitics. They don't understand how politics works, how funding works, how lobbying works, how taxes works, how allies work. They don't understand how any of it works, and they talk like they do. They say their CNN, their MSNBC, or their Fox News talking points on repeat, the 10 ones they have that they hear all the time. They don't actually know any of the details. They don't know what's in the One Big Beautiful Bill. They don't know what's in any of Kamala or Biden's bills. They don't know what any of the Supreme Court cases actually said. They don't know anything. And we need to continue to educate these people. We need to continue to stop pushing propaganda. We need to continue to communicate. We need to continue to just get back to the founding principles of America and get back to the America that we were promised, because it's sad that future generations are not going to get the America that I was promised and that I'm not going to get either. I hope I can eventually. I hope that we're able to eventually fix these problems, but it doesn't seem like it. And I've already said publicly I'm willing to accept the sacrifice that my life is not going to be as good as the one I want to provide for future generations, but I'm willing to make my life worse and sacrifice a little bit of that to provide for future generations. I'm willing to make the country slightly more unstable now if it means we're going to get some of the debt down to be able to have future generations be able to succeed and build families and buy homes and not see a population collapse of humans, because I don't want humans to go extinct, and I definitely don't want Americans going extinct. America is the greatest country in the world. It's the land of the free because of the brave. It's the land I love. If you cut me open, I bleed red, white, and blue. I'm an American patriot, and I love this country. I love the USA. We have the 4th of July coming up this weekend. I'm sad because there's a huge rainstorm, so my fireworks show that I was going to light off in my neighborhood got canceled, but what are you going to do? It's communism for you. It's controlling the weather. No, I'm kidding. But you get my point. It's just we need to get back to American principles, American values. We need to get back to the things that made America. And when I say make America great again, it's not even in the Donald Trump way. It's just in the let's really make America great again. Whether you're a liberal or conservative, you can agree with the statement that America is not as great as it should be, and we should make it great again. I don't know why that's a controversial subject. Donald Trump made that his campaign slogan, and damn it, it's a great one. But liberals took that statement and made it into the equivalent to saying Heil Hitler. Like they don't like it. They make you seem like a Nazi for saying it. And I've been called a Nazi hundreds of times because of being a conservative and supporting Donald Trump. I have plenty of Jewish friends, so I think it's extremely insulting to the Jewish people I know and the Jewish people around the world to call people who are not Nazis Nazis, because it waters down what a Nazi actually is and was, and the actual harm that Nazis did to society, killing millions of people in extremely inhumane ways. I really disagree with the insults. I disagree with the propaganda. I disagree with, like I said, part of the One Big Beautiful Bill, but I'm going to accept it as a win for today, accept it as a win for America going into this 4th of July holiday. We got 4th of July tomorrow. I'm going to do a quick special episode, not a long one. Maybe I'll touch up on some history of America in the episode for you guys on what the 4th of July was, how this country was founded, how the battles played out in the end of that war. I think there's a lot of things about American history most people don't realize. They get the washed down high school version and they accept that, and then they don't do any of their own research. But I urge everyone, read 50 to 100 books a year. If you think that's a lot, it definitely is. 50 is a lot more manageable than 100, I could tell you. Charlie Kirk says do 100. I do about 50 because that's all I can manage. Sometimes, I think last year I got 56. But aim for 50, and audiobooks are a great way to fit those in. I don't read 50 books a year. I probably read about 20, 25, and then there's 30 to 20 to 30 audiobooks in there. The audiobooks are great because I have a lot of long car rides. I listen to them in the car rides. If I'm just at my computer typing, doing research for the show here, they're great ways to stay informed. They're great ways to know history. They're great ways to get different perspectives on things. And I'm not saying just anything you read, take it as it is. Keep doing additional research. The more you're able to educate yourself from multiple perspectives and understand all angles of things, the better advantage you're going to have over everybody. People could hate on Kanye all they want, and I understand some of it. He tweets out some crazy things. He even said he had like sex with his cousin, and it's not even like talking about like the anti-Semitic stuff we all know about. But yeah, Kanye's obviously a crazy guy, but one of the things that make Kanye a genius is he looks at everything from all angles. He looks at the most extreme side of the worst, the most extreme side of the best. He looks at the middle, and he creates an average. And he does that for almost everything he does. He does it with music. He does it with when he was in politics. He talks about this thought process he has a lot. And I do think Kanye is on some level a genius. Again, I'm not saying that all the things he says are genius or smart, but I do think he has really high IQ. I do think that the way his brain operates is very high functioning, but I do think that a lot of the things he says are pretty ridiculous. I'm not going to defend the statements he makes. I'm not going to defend the anti-Semitism. I'm not going to defend walking around with your wife naked like she's a sex slave. That's disgusting, especially as a Christian. But I am going to say that I think he shouldn't be censored. I am going to say that I think Americans should not be censored no matter what. It's a controversial take, but Matt Walsh and Charlie Kirk talked about this on their shows both within the last week too, so I figured I would. People shouldn't be censored in America, short of threats. Dave Portnoy talked about this. He said, when does freedom of speech impede on freedom of religion? Speaking about people saying specifically, fuck the Jews. One kid said that specifically, held a sign of that in Dave Portnoy's bar, which, again, completely condemn that. But I don't think that impedes on freedom of religion when you say that. And I don't agree with the statement. I don't like the statement, but it's not like he's saying I'm going to kill all the Jews. He said, fuck the Jews. Very different statement. And both are terrible statements, both very condemnable statements that the person should not have said. And the person who did say them obviously has poor intellectual views. But my point is that we are punishing speech in America because people don't like it. It's not like he's threatening the person. It's not like he is making a direct threat. He is just stating that he doesn't like something. I hear people tell me they don't like white people all the time. I actually debated someone on TikTok about that the other day. It's just one of those things where it's okay to say to some people for some reason, but not to others. And it's not Jew specific. You can't say it about almost any race or group besides white people. Here's the crazy thing. People love to talk about the pedophilia in the Catholic Church, and they love to say that all Christians are Nazis, but like, why is it okay to generalize Christians, but you can't generalize Muslims or Jewish people? And I'm not saying people should generalize anybody, but it's just the hypocrisy by the left establishment that pushes these values that, like, yes, you can shit on white people, you can shit on Christians, you can do all these things because minorities are superior and we're allowed to do those things. And we've been oppressed for hundreds of years, so now it's our time to do the oppressing. No, that's not how it works. Reverse racism is racism. These things are a joke. The fact that they're trying to get away with this is just repulsive to me. I want to get back to American values. I want to get back to the country I know and love. I don't think we should be pushing those woke leftist values. Again, none of this here at the end is me saying that anything Kanye's saying or anything that the people who are canceled are saying is okay. I'm not saying that I condemn the things they're saying. I'm not saying I agree with them. It's actually the opposite. I disagree with them, but that's part of the thing. Like, just because I disagree with them doesn't mean they should be silenced. If everyone I disagreed with was silenced, that would be 60% of the country. I'm probably in the smaller minority of the country with some of my views. I'm not going to be crazy to acknowledge that. I'm an American nationalist. I think we need to stop legal and illegal immigration. I think we need to focus on American values. And yes, there are benefits to legal immigration. I'm not denying that. I have that debate with people all the time. But if you look at the actual statistics of where our money goes, and if you looked at the values of Americans, we're losing American values, we're losing American culture, we are losing what this country was founded on. We need to rebuild American values, American culture, American patriotism, the American nuclear family, the American dollar, American manufacturing, American jobs. It has nothing to do with anyone's race or religion. It has nothing to do with really their values either, outside of not being American values are what we need in America over everything right now. We're losing our sense of patriotism. We're losing any sense of bipartisan support we have with each other. There was a time in this country where we can communicate with each other, and we just can't anymore. We can't have civil discussions. We can't have communications. We can't just talk to people. I know people who don't even talk to their own mothers or fathers or brothers or sisters or grandmothers because they have political differences, and that's disgusting to me. Tim Walz's family spoke out against him during the election, and as much as I don't like Tim Walz, that was disgusting to me. Even if they are Trump supporters, speaking out against your brother, your sister, whoever it is, someone in your own family publicly because of political differences is awful. Same thing happened with RFK. The Kennedy family is already a disaster ever since their father was shot down. But you get it. It's like, why are we seeing this breakdown in the family? Why are we seeing this breakdown that politics is now destroying families? That didn't happen before. And you got to think that maybe when I say the government, I'm not like saying Trump specifically or like any specific House representative or Senate representative. When I say the government, a lot of the times I'm referring to the deep state, the swamp, and I guess I could elaborate on that more. But yeah, I think this is what the deep state and the swamp wanted. I think they wanted the breakdown of the nuclear family. They wanted people, half the population, argue to willingly give up their guns. They wanted people to get away from religion. They wanted to import a foreign voter base who was going to vote for more social systems and vote for more socialist and communist policies. You see what's happening in New York. They're literally just voted a socialist in. It's disgusting. New York it's the eye of capitalism. It is the center of it. So why are we having a socialist in New York? 2 bodegas on every street are about to shut down after these state-owned grocery stores or city-owned grocery stores open up. It's so sad. You should watch the interviews with the business owners in New York who are talking about how this is going to impact their businesses, because these are the things that matter. The fact that we're supporting the New York City government over small business owners in the city of New York is disgusting to me. It goes against everything America was founded on in American principles. It's socialist principles. And it's the things I want removed for this nation. A lot of people have a problem with my take on Zamdani. I don't. I think for a few reasons he's really bad for the nation. I think people who are not born in America should not hold American political positions. You don't have ties to this country the same way an American does. I'm born in this nation. I love this nation, and I don't love any nation anywhere remotely comparably, and I don't have any ties to any other nations. But someone who was born in Uganda and moved here 8 years ago and is in their upper 30s or in their 40s or whatever Zamdani is, he has way more ties to Uganda than he has to America. He has way more ties to his socialist and Muslim principles than he does to American principles. And Sharia law does not work in America. And for people who have a problem with me speaking out against a Muslim holding public office in New York City, I urge you to actually read the Quran, because I've read the Quran to understand religious texts. I've read the Bible, I've read the Quran. I try and read a lot of different religious texts to understand these religions and understand their founding principles to see if they integrate with us. And Muslim culture generally does not. They could have 4 wives, they could beat their wives as long as they're not beating them too much. The women have to stay fully covered. They can only show their eyes. Even if they show their ankles, they're considered whores and they get stoned to death. And the Muslim God, he married a 6-year-old and slept with a 9-year-old. And in a lot of Muslim countries, including Iraq, you can marry a 9-year-old. These are disgusting things. This is pedophilia. These things don't assimilate with American culture. I'm not saying Zamdani believes all those things or wants to integrate those things into New York City, but if you can't see that this is the starting stone, if you can't see that it's a slippery slope, if you can't see that this is the first step to allowing full-blown socialism, full-blown communism, and allowing a full-scale invasion into New York City, that's sad, because that's what's happening. We have a lot of crazy, scary things happening in this nation, but a lot of positive things as well. As I've talked about, I am scared about the debt ceiling raise, but I'm willing to put that aside to call this a win for the One Big Beautiful Bill. But I do want us to fix all these other problems domestically. I really want us to create policies that don't allow foreigners to infiltrate our government. I want to create policies that don't allow foreign lobbyists to infiltrate our government. I want to create the policies that make the housing crisis more sustainable. I want to create policies that benefit Americans, your everyday Americans, your bus driver, your UPS worker, your mom who does data entry, your podcaster. I want to do things that support Americans and support American infrastructure, American jobs, the American dollar. I'm tired of my dollar being worthless. I'm tired of America being so divided, and you should be too. Why would anyone want America to continue to be this divided? Why would anyone want this country to continue down the path it's currently on? Even if you love everything Donald Trump's doing, even if you thought you loved everything Kamala was going to do, why would you want to continue down the path where, the person who lives next to you or across from you hate because of their political beefs, and you're waving a Trump sign in your yard just to piss them off, or they're waving a Harris flag in theirs to piss you off? That's un-American. It goes against what this country was founded on and the community we're trying to build here. It's exactly the reason our founders didn't want us creating political parties and creating foreign affairs. I think if we didn't do those things, we would have a different looking nation in the sense of GDP, military, and the way our country developed. But we'd also have a more American country. We'd have a country that has American values. And people ask all the time, like, what are American values? Like, all you guys immigrated here from Europe in the 20s and before that. No, there are American values, and we need to get back to that. And the fact that people have to ask that question proves my point that we're losing them, that we're losing these patriotic values that make it mean something to be an American, that people just walk into this country and they think they claim citizenship, and that's what it is to be an American. But no, it's a lot more than that. It's a patriotic feeling you have inside. It's a duty to your nation. It's a promise to future generations and a lot more. And it's something that we are not fulfilling right now. We're failing that. We're failing our founding fathers because of it. It's very sad. It upsets me. It should upset more Americans. I think more people should do more research. I think more people should check out more censored people. Again, I'm not saying people should agree with their views, but I think the censored people do have things to say as well. And just because they're censored doesn't mean they're not worth listening to. I think it makes them even more intriguing to listen to because of that. Like I said, I disagree with a lot of the censored people, but I still check out their topics. I still check out their takes. I still watch their videos and read their tweets because it matters, because it's what pushes this country forward, that we're able to communicate with the people we disagree with, that we're able to have conversations with the people we disagree with and not just silence them. When we're silencing people because of their views, when their views aren't threatening, that is anti-American. When people are not threatening other people's lives or other people's freedoms, and then they're saying, oh, I don't like this group, and we're silencing that because they said a slur or something, that's not okay. And again, it's not me condemning what they're saying. It's just me saying that I'm a free speech absolutist, and anything short of a threat should be fine in free speech, as long as you're not saying I'm going to hurt this person or kill this person, or I want to do this or do that. Like, what's wrong with saying I don't like this group or I don't like this group? I understand the ethics of it being wrong and the morality of it being wrong, but there's no legality to that. There's no legal basis to remove someone's blue check mark on Twitter or delete their social media account or to ostracize them from society because of that. Again, there's social consequences to everything. I think if someone wants to just run around saying the N-word, like, you should hold that person accountable. That should be a known thing. It's not like we should just allow people to just run around and say things like crazy, but we shouldn't stop them from saying it. It's not like we should say it's illegal to say it or you're going to lose your entire livelihood if we say it. We could say, yeah, you're going to lose followers and people might not agree with you and maybe a brand deal or two, because the brands aren't going to want to put up with that in their advertising. But to say that we're not going to allow you to even voice your opinion anymore on this social media platform because of that is unconstitutional, un-American, and violates everything we stood for as Americans. There are a lot of things like that. I've talked about Edward Snowden before. Same thing. I think he released his tapes in 2013 or so where he exposed that the CIA was abusing the Patriot Act to listen to every single one of our phone calls. It wasn't just terrorist phone calls. They were listening to everybody's phone calls, private emails, and if you were sending naked pictures, provocative things, they saw that. They were looking at that. People were saving that. They were in databases that were uncovered later on. Very terrible things that our government was doing. When Edward Snowden revealed these things, he was charged with treason and literally had to move to Russia to avoid that. So that's just one of those things where it's like you'd hear that and think, oh yeah, that's something that happens in Russia, not something that happens in America, and the person had to flee to Russia to evade the American government. Snowden should get a pardon the same way all of Biden's family got pardons 15 minutes before Trump's inauguration. It's a whole nother conversation we've talked about before. I think Snowden should get a pardon. I think we need to take the canceled voices and make them alive again. And again, don't listen to everything they say, but it's just give them a voice. Allow them to be Americans. Give them the things they were promised by our founders. Give all of us the things we were promised by our founders. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what I want. I want to be able to pursue happiness. I want to be able to pursue a family and a house. And that just not seem like an achievable goal in today's society. And that's really sad. I want these things fixed, and I hope America really can fix these soon. I'm James Paskalides. This has been episode 82 of America Unfiltered, our One Big Beautiful Bill episode. I know we bounced around at the end there. It's my ADHD, but it's what I love about this. I hope you guys have a blessed day, a blessed night. Tomorrow is 4th of July. Nobody drink and drive. It is always worth it to call an Uber. Please do not drink and drive. It is a very sad thing. I think it's 80,000 people a year die to that. So please, if you're going to drink, take an Uber, have a friend stay sober, whatever it is. Do not drink and drive. I promise you, if you call your friend to call you an Uber, even if you can't afford it, he would pay for your Uber over paying for your funeral and paying for your casket and being your pallbearer. I promise you, it is not worth it to drink and drive. Every one of my listeners who is still listening at this point over an hour in, thank you, by the way. Subscribe, comment. And the more subscriptions I get, the better. But please don't drink and drive. And if you're not one of my subscribers, don't drink and drive, but still subscribe. Let's get on the list. But I love you guys. I hope you guys have a great day. And I will have an episode tomorrow for the 4th of July. I'll probably try and talk about American history a little bit, more of a history episode than anything. I hope you guys have a great day, a great tomorrow, great 4th of July, a great holiday, a great weekend. Let's make America great again. Let's bring the founders' principles back to this country. Let's put America first, policies first, and let's make this country the country that we were promised when we were younger. Thank you, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.